Hello and welcome to the Boss's Corner. I'm happy to have an industry friend and colleague, Michael Couch, with me today. We go back a long way. As some of you know, uh, Boss is going to be celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. And in going back and taking a stroll down memory lane, it's been interesting to see and reminisce with the people that I feel were truly instrumental in not only, the early stages of, our formation, but also in the long-term trajectory and where we are today. So I want to welcome Michael. Michael, for those of us out there that don't know of you, which I can't imagine how that's possible, but you've been a great mentor, on the sidelines for me for years. But I'd love to, inform them of who you are, where you came from, and get a little bit of information out there for you.
Sure. First of all, congratulations on 20 years and for weathering that nor'easter that just blew through. I hope you guys are all okay.
Yeah, we got quite, we didn't get that bad, about 8 inches of snow, but we'll make it through. We've dealt with a lot worse than that. It's not like sunny California, but then you guys have the wildfires, so
Right.
it could be a little bit worse on that
Right.
as well. I think you guys got it under control now, but thank you.
Well, just to briefly introduce myself, I was, before retiring a few years ago, the director of construction and maintenance at Wet Seal. And that's where our alliance was formed, I guess. I was introduced to you guys by one of my coordinators, Mike Vaughn, who I'm not sure if he's still in the industry. I haven't
Sure.
spoken for
I'm
a
going to be
while.
speaking with him next week.
Okay.
Kind of doing the same thing, but yeah, he's a great guy.
Well, it was a great introduction and one of the most beneficial partnerships that I had over those, I guess, 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
While I was there. And, you guys were always a company I could count on. I know we had a very strict policies in place that limited who we could work with, and all work that we did outside of the preventative maintenance program, which I know you guys occupied a large region of that, all work that was outside of there, we were required to competitively bid, and we could always count on a very accurate and thorough number from you guys. So I just think we had a very successful partnership throughout that
Thank
time.
you. I do too. And it's funny, I don't know if you remember this or not, but we formed in January of 01. And in speaking with Mike Vaughn early on, and I met him at a trade show, and we'll get into that in a minute or so. But
well, let's not get into the trade shows.
not the fun stuff, but the serious stuff. But some form, some level of professionalism and lifelong alliances happened there. And I was fortunate enough to meet Mike Vaughn, who ultimately brought me back to Wet Seal to give us an opportunity. And what I really remember is, him signing off on or getting the signature on our first contract at Boss Facilities was Wet Seal. And what was interesting about that was we were only a few months into it, and you had wound up leaving Wet Seal at that point in time. And all I kept thinking in my mind is here we were for 6 months trying to build something and get our first client. And within, a few weeks, or maybe it was a few months, I'm getting a little hazy in my old age, but the part that really struck me was, is this all going to become null and void? And, although we were on the upswing in gaining more and more territory under preventive maintenance, I just thought, wow, this is going to be detrimental. And it actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise because we wound up uh, working together again since then when you were over at Drapers and Damon's and some other places where you'd landed as well. So it was definitely something that that scared me at the onset, but I definitely am thankful and appreciative of being given that shot because you got to go back 20 years. I was 26 years old when we started this company, and a lot's changed since. It was, it was me and my sister, and then eventually bringing on my father and my brother as well. And we've really, skyrocketed and have had year over year growth for the last 20 years, even during this pandemic. It's gonna be interesting to finalize the numbers for this year, but knock on wood, very very fortunate to be given that opportunity to show you what we could do. And coming from the trades and being young, not many people would have taken that gamble. So I really do appreciate that opportunity.
Yeah, and now I do recall I was there back in '01 and then left the company after a year or two, and then went back to Wet Seal. I think it was
Correct.
in '05, and we
That's right.
continued with that working
Right.
relationship.
It
So
was great. I mean, I reminisce on those days quite often. I mean, it was just a different business climate. Um, there was a lot more, I hate to say it this way, a lot more fun to be had. Back in the day, it wasn't as serious. The industry's changed so drastically. Performance is definitely important, but I think that the connection that you form with certain individuals and companies also, I'm kind of in between two schools of thought, right? The new is the fast and the furious, and how low can you go, and it's all in these KPIs. But I'm also a firm believer in establishing relationships, and the handshake means a lot. You don't got to get bogged down in 20-page contracts either. So I live in between those two worlds, old school and new school. Not one's right or wrong. However, I believe that you could do both and be very successful and form and forge these relationships over the years. And again, thank you, for that opportunity. Um, for someone that's thinking of getting into this world, into the facility management world, would you recommend it in today's environment, or is it just completely different and you have to have a new subset of skills to tackle and be successful in it?
well, you know, the industry was changing very drastically in the latter part of my career. So, and I didn't think it was changing in a positive direction. I thought that the people that were coming into the industry, as far as the merchant side, that I was on, uh, were not skilled, seasoned professionals. They were, um, you know, uh, basically whoever they could get to perform this. They were more purchase order generators and things like that. So the real seasoned, people that I had working for me, like Mike Vaughn and Andre, um, they they I don't know. It's like the industry
They
kind of got
understood they
away.
understood on a different level, on a deeper,
Yeah,
more
and
technical level, correct?
exactly, and you could trust, or I could trust them, and it made my job much easier. But I don't know. I went off and was doing mall development at the end of my career, and I'm not really sure where the industry is now. Obviously, you guys are still very successful, so I would imagine the trust factor between the merchant and the vendor must be at a very high level because, like I said, the real seasoned people were kind of being phased out, and So people who really understood mechanical systems and heating systems and plumbing, um, may have kind of faded away from the merchant side. So, but I don't know.
It's changing. They are relying on us in a different capacity today for that, subject matter expertise, or as we like to say, service matter expertise. But it's definitely tough because, we're struggling, industries are struggling to recruit the next level of technician and electricians and plumbers and HVAC and even, carpenters and so on and so forth, because everyone was pushed into college and getting into the white collar jobs. No one
Right.
really wanted to get into the blue collar jobs. I'm very fortunate that my father really pushed me, to make a decision. It was either one or the other. What do you want to do? And, loving the industry, I really, I thrived in it and I loved it. I wanted to be able to bring that into the new school, if you will. And that's why I formed Boss Facility Services back in '01. Is, I saw a lot of compression, especially at Wet Seal. I remember the days when, in 99, 2000, 2001, you'd have, let's say 600 stores, but you'd have 25 people running or 20 people running 600 locations because the technology just wasn't there. So knowing that this compression was going to happen, that the 20 would go to 5, and it'd be more of a need for a facilities management firm to step in is the real reason why we got involved. Being that liaison between the technology and the clientele to ensure that, the job goes well from start to finish, right? So it was one of the things that it's interesting because people say, where do you lie these days compared to, back when you first started in your philosophy. And I basically say, look, service is service. Okay. You got to get the job done and you got to get it done quickly. Okay. Especially in an emergency scenario. But you also got to do it, at the right price. You don't have to be the lowest. You can't be the highest. But you got to sit in the middle. But getting the service done was always priority one. It didn't matter. And you could attest to this. When the CEO would yell, what's going on at this location when it goes running up the flagpole, money wasn't even a factor at that point, right? I mean, they just needed to ensure that, the emergency was taken care of, but speed of service was really, really, number one. So if we could live our day in and day out with the speed of service and getting things done, well, the rest is moot point. So we've been doing that since day one. And service now more than ever is just as important. And it doesn't matter if you're a bricks and mortar or a clicks and mortar or a hybrid of both. And it's just it's an interesting thing to see retail, what I would call retail from '01 till 2021, and the full circle it's gone. Brands that were iconic brands 10 years ago, 15 years ago are no longer, and some that you blink and they just started a year ago and they've got market cap that's bigger than the entire vertical market. So someone like a Tesla or something like that, it's moving at such a radical pace. It's just, I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the next 10, 20 years from now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can imagine the challenges that you guys face. And one, like you said, the decline in tradesmen, which is just sad. And I don't want to get off on tangents, but I know that Mike Rowe has this amazing program that supports younger people getting into the trades, and I think that needs to really succeed.
It does need to succeed. And the interesting thing with that is, and I've been telling people, lawyers, dime a dozen, accountants, they're a dime a dozen. You want to make some money in this industry, get into a blue collar trade now, because, and it's funny because people in our industry, in the facility management world, they looked to, I don't know, downplay the importance of a blue collar worker, when in reality, they're so critical in everything that you do day in and day out. that they've now, in the next 5 years, will be making, six-figure salaries, no problem, without overtime, right? Because the skill set is in such demand comparatively to a lawyer,
right.
right? But I always would take offense to a client that would say, oh, it's $130 an hour for an HVAC guy in Chicago. And it's like, do you understand, first and foremost, how hard it is to get somebody in the trades? But more than that, the skill set in which they possess, not only, just being able to turn a wrench, but understand computers and everything else in today's, climate, even an auto mechanic for that matter. You have to plug in computers, understand how to, troubleshoot and do these things at such a high level. And it takes such schooling and understanding that, if you think it's expensive now, check back in 5 years. I guarantee it'll be $200 an hour.
Right.
And you're not going to commoditize an industry like that because nobody's, like I said, going into the trade. So they could command their own price at some point in time. And I think
Yeah.
it's fair.
Well, again, trying to stay topic oriented, I think the
Absolutely.
dilution of the salary, um, through a lot of different areas of the country, kind of led people away from getting into the trades, and so it's good to start seeing those salaries increase. I remember, doing projects at Mall of America in Minneapolis, and having electricians who were literally working 15, 16 hours a day at a very good hourly rate. And I thought, these guys are making twice what I'm making,
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think I think that the pay scale needs to get back up to encourage these younger people. And then two, I was meaning to ask you, the real high tech computer energy management systems were really starting to come into play as I left the industry. So I don't know how those worked out. I remember, when I was at Guess, they were trying to localize all of their mechanical systems
Sure.
into one, central location that was run from an office in Los Angeles. And I don't know, how did all that work out for you guys, and
Well,
what kind of learning did you have to do?
well, energy management as a whole is fantastic. I mean, there's so many things you benefit from insight to the energy savings and reducing carbon footprint, and just understanding how your mechanical equipment's running and maintenance and so on. It's fantastic. Me personally, I'm sort of certified in Novar, Johnson Controls, Honeywell as well. But what's interesting is what was 15 years ago with hardwired systems is now, I mean, you even know in your own home, you could have a Nest thermostat, and the power of that Nest thermostat is equal to, 5 input-output modules on a Novar system from 15 years ago. So, and the level of proficiency you need to install has gone the other way on a basic system, on a basic thermostat setup like that. But the reporting you could get out of it, in energy consumption and what you're spending annually on your maintenances and things of that nature, it's great. It still has its purpose. I'm just disappointed that they still haven't caught up on the construction side of things to encourage the building of these locations with these systems in it.
Right.
And they're still behind the 8 ball as far as I'm concerned. They look at it as a cost, and yes, obviously it's upfront cost. It's like solar. I believe, everyone should have solar. Every single home in the United States should have solar. The government should put as much thought and deliverance on that, I guess, philosophy out of the gate, because we want that energy independence. We want to be able to reduce not only our individual carbon footprint, but also our household and business carbon footprint as well. Some companies, they truly embrace it, and I give them a big thumbs up, and they're doing the right thing. And some just turn a blind eye, and they really don't care at the end of the day. But It's
Yeah,
unfortunate
it's
because we have the ability to do it. Why aren't we doing it is the bigger question.
yeah, it's crazy that that my home is 15 years old, and I live just down the street here from Disneyland. And well, I don't want to get too accurate and probably still have a lot of enemies out there, but but my home's only 15 years old and it was not built with any type of modern energy management systems. There's, it wasn't built with solar. I, as I've, become considerably disabled over the past few years and have had to incorporate a lot of the smart technology into my home here. And I mean, I think it's brilliant. And how, I mean, I can turn on my lights with, just an order, and I can dim them,
Yep,
and turn them off, and
fantastic.
and sure, and unlock my front door and
Yep.
open my garage door, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's and I'm sure it's things that you guys have to stay on top of. And I just want to say also, as a note to Bob, he was so invaluable to me because the other companies, and I guess this is getting back to the way it was, but a lot of the other companies, when I met them, and when I at a trade show, or even when I called with questions, I was always dealing with the salesman. I was always dealing with somebody who kind of knew a little bit, but nothing like what Bob could provide. And it was never a sales pitch. It was always, this is what it is. And any question I ever had, it was always answered as, it's what it is.
Right. It's funny because
You're
still
not going to
getting
get
back to that
around
old
getting it done.
mentality, and you know, we still pride ourselves in the fact that we're as big as we are now, but we still have that ability to be reached as owners in the organization. That's very rare, and I know that that's rare. But I really pride ourselves on the ability to be able to connect with people. Hey, look, you need me at 2 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to call my operations manager, to ask a question. You could call me. It doesn't matter. I'll take it. From cradle to grave. But it's one of those things that more and more that I speak to people, and you're reconfirming it. Is he used to say, "Oh, it was great. I'd call. Bob would be on the back of his boat. I'd get him, and I'd be able to ask him a question about this, and then how's life and what's going on, and this, that, and the other thing." But it lent that human element to a very stressful industry. I mean, what we do day in and day out, it sounds very rudimentary and very repetitive, but it's difficult
Yeah.
most of the time to get someone out to put out you know a fire, if you will, of what's going on at the location, and to do it and do it quickly, efficiently, in the middle of nowhere, or sometimes in a major metro market, or in the middle of a blizzard, or whatever the case may be. But it's usually chaos at its best. But we try to ensure that we're staying on top of it and just doing our job. But
Right. Right.
unfortunately, it's a very thankless industry too. You do 2,000 things great. You do one thing wrong and it's very cutthroat. And that's where these relationships become very valuable. And I want to thank you, again, for giving us the opportunity to get our feet, planted. And I knew that we could do it. And we're always realistic. We're not going to put our name behind something and just tell you what you want to hear. We're comfortable saying no. A lot of people always say no problem, and they tackle something that's way out of their, comfort zone. And we've really stuck in our lane and really mastered, our industry. So
Right.
thank you again. Is there any parting words, or, I know that you're in retirement now, so, hopefully things are going well on that front. I know you've had some setbacks in the last few years, but again, you mean the world to me.
Well, again, thank you and congratulations. And I just want to, and if there's anybody out there who would be listening and wondering if Boss Facilities and Boss Services is a company to go with, I just really want to reiterate how much I appreciated the personal touch. I never had to worry about the professionalism of the work. It was always taken care of. But like you said, to be able to call you and call Bob, and I remember calling your cell phone, and I knew you were getting older, and I feel like you were a kid when I first met you, but you
I
were getting
was.
older and got
Technically,
married, and then you were
yep,
having kids,
that's
and
right.
I always felt bad. This is a guy who has a life now, and but you were always available, and I appreciate so much how
You just brought
you
me back. You just brought me back to another time. You were reopening a closed location in, oh geez, it was in Florida, and you were in a panic. And we had to go in and put up the wall standards again. Do you remember this? And you were down on site and you were flipping out. We got to open this location. I don't know if it's going to get done. Do you remember I flew down to Florida and you had just left on the flight? You had just left and you said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm standing in the location." That's how important things were. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I
It
do
was in West
recall.
Palm Beach. It was in West Palm Beach. I
Yeah,
remember that job like it was yesterday. And I heard the panic on your voice. And I said, "There's no way. The store's going to open, no problem. Don't worry about it." And it meant that much to me that you were panicked that I actually hopped on the next flight and got down there.
I
And
do
where are you heading
recall
back
now.
to California?
I do recall, and because it was the only time I ever panicked and flipped out.
Yeah. Yep.
So I
And that's why I
never.
took it so seriously because you weren't like that. So, so it was good. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
but again, just in closing, how much I appreciate that you stay in touch with me, and I appreciate your emails, even though I know I don't always respond, and I know that
Difficult.
yeah, I know that you care and you check in, and obviously I'm not in the industry and I don't work anymore, but that I'm that important to you. I do appreciate that,
Well, thank you.
and I thank you.
Thank you. All right, Michael. We'll end on that note. Thanks
All
again.
right, and hey,